In the Republic of Moldova, the USA is joining the conflict known as the Transnistria War. After a particularly vicious attack, an American soldier, Davis, gets isolated from his team, having no time to wait for reinforcement. He goes into a building alone, putting on his hyperspectral imaging goggles. Inside, he sees various inert bodies that show up as frozen. After heading further, he comes across a strange clear, humanoid specters that is undetectable to the exposed eyes. Davis sends all that he sees back to his base, however, before he can ask for information. The specters goes through his body at a rapid, killing him on the spot. Meanwhile in the USA, a scientist named Mark, who works for the DARPA, he appears to have invented a few high-level combat gear including the hyperspectral imaging goggles, and is presently dealing with another invention, a device fit for crumbling matter utilizing waves. Mark presents this innovation to senior officials, who request that he begin testing on people for possible military use. Thereafter, Mark is summoned to Moldova to audit the recording caught by the goggles he invented. Afterward, he shows up at a US military airbase camp in Moldova, where he meets General Orland and CIA official Fran. They lead him to the sensitive compartmented information facility and show him the recording recorded by Davis before his death. After checking on the recording, Orland informed Mark that they've found a few team who have died in similar way throughout the course of recent weeks, as indicated by autopsy reports. The casualties showed frozen inward organs and consumed skin. Fran estimates that these sightings may be local insurgents wearing advanced camouflage, yet Mark still has doubts. To acquire more clear pictures of these irregularities and recognize them, Orland permits Mark and Fran to go with a team of Delta Force operators into the field, to catch a superior image of the specters. Mark mounts his improved hyperspectral camera on one of the military trucks. At first, the soldiers are unsettled about replacing an automatic weapon with a camera. However, Mark's close buddy, Captain Cabrera, scolds his team and relates that Mark is the virtuoso behind the entirety of their high-level weaponry. Later on, the captain tends to his soldiers with respect to their mission. They will enter a 5-story abandoned building looking for their Utah team, who disappeared the earlier day. Cabrera additionally cautioned them that the area is constrained by insurgents, so they ought to prepare for battle. Also, he instructs the team to kill any oddities they find it there. After the preparation, the Delta Force set off in their trucks. After arriving at the area, Mark, Fran, and Captain Cabrera stay in the truck to monitor the soldiers' helmet cam feeds while the rest warily advance in. When inside, they find the members from the Utah team are dead alongside the insurgents. Upon arriving at the 4th floor, Mark detects a movement and guides the soldiers in that direction. As they approach, they come across an improved bath, underneath which they find Sergeant Comstock from the Utah team, who is as yet alive. Comstock reports that his fellow soldiers are dead, and their bodies are on the 5th floor. Following this, the soldiers go to check the 5th floor, where one of them recognizes something very similar: specters. This prompts him to start shooting. However, the specter stays unaffected and counterattacks, killing the soldiers. Captain Cabrera cautioned the remainder of the team, who continue mindfully to the area, just to meet similar destiny because of the specters. Seeing the soldiers dying consistently, Mark urges Fran to order a prompt mission cutoff. Fran delays, saying that they can't return with essentially nothing. Accordingly, Mark asserts that he can ensure that at any rate, they're returning with nothing. After the deaths of a couple of additional soldiers, Cabrera at long last requests the team to withdraw and the soldiers use ropes to exit through the window. In the interim, Mark gets on top of the vehicle and focuses his camera towards the window where the soldiers are being attacked. It's as of now that he catches a clear image of the specters, which has a human form and furthermore has a human-like face. When Mark conveys this information to the captain, Cabrera quickly emerges from the vehicle and fires a rocket launcher towards the specters, but it affects the entity. All things being equal, it fights back and kills the captain. The specters then continues to take out the soldiers left the building individually. Fortunately, some of them, counting Sergeant Comstock, some way or another figure out how to enter the truck and drive away. Returning, Mark asks Comstock about what he saw. The latter explained that he saw something more like a frozen cover that went through his colleagues and claimed their lives. In any case, before he can disclose additional information, their truck hits some landmines, making it topple. Comstock hits his head in this accident and tragically dies. Everybody helps each other leave the vehicle, while Mark focuses on recovering his hyperspectral camera. The team then surges towards an abandoned warehouse. At long last, they know that their aggressors aren't insurgents, as those entities can go through the walls and can't be killed by their weapons. Now that the vast majority of the soldiers' helmet cams are destroyed, Mark utilizes his huge camera to focus in on the roads outside the warehouse. Through it, they see a few specters meandering around. They additionally discover that these specters can't go through the iron shavings, meaning the shavings go about as a protective barrier. All at once, they hear some commotion, which alarms them. Thinking that they are not alone in the warehouse, the soldiers actually look at the whole area, just to find a couple of innocent kids, Sari and Bogdan, hiding in a room. Although they don't speak in English, Fran can speak with them in their language. Through their discussion, they discover that the kids are distant from everyone else in the warehouse. Sari explains that their dad was the person who dispersed the iron shavings to protect them before he was killed. She likewise thinks that the specters are lost soul trapped among life and death. Mark asks about their dad's whereabouts, and Sari leads them to another room where she has hid his dead body from her more young brother. After examining the body, Mark finds a ceramic locket containing a mystery map of Masarif, a region close the stream. The girl demonstrates that here the specters initially showed up. Meanwhile, the excess soldiers connect with the airbase and orchestrate a meeting point, a plaza located half a mile away. But they're doubtful because they can make it since there is no cover on the way. At that point, they notice various boxes filled up with iron shavings inside the warehouse. They then utilize these shavings to change over their grenades into ad-libbed improvised explosive devices, furnishing them with a fighting opportunity. Also adjust the hyperspectral camera into a big searchlight, which empowers the team to see the specters without the requirement for goggles. He additionally sends instructions to the base, asking that they make another bigger searchlight. In the midst of their plans, they hear some commotion from outside. Mark utilizes his new searchlight to actually look it through the window, just to find that the specters have figured out how to cross the barrier. Detecting the criticalness of the circumstance, the team completes the prompt departure and weighs out the warehouse through the back door. As the specters seek after them, Mark focuses the searchlight toward them, delivering them noticeable to everybody. The soldiers then utilize their adjusted shots. What's more, explosives filled up with iron shaving specters back. Sooner or later of struggle, the team in the end comes to the meeting point. Nonetheless, the rescue team has not yet shown up, provoking them to seek shelter in an unwanted bus more awful to their karma. Mark's searchlight additionally stopped working, leaving them defenseless against possible attack. In a little while, rescue tanks show up on the scene, equipped with a huge searchlight mounted on its top. When enacted, various specters are found in the surrounding buildings. The tanks open fire on these specters, while the soldiers in the transport rush to come to the safety of the tanks, but the specters stay unaffected by their weaponry and begin killing the soldiers individually. They even destroyed the tanks with the searchlights, leaving the soldiers with no appropriate vision. Amidst this commotion, Bogdan races to an open place to recover his dad's ceramic locket. Seeing this, Sari hurries to his guide, yet previously she can contact him. A specter goes through the boy, prompting his inopportune downfall. The specters then accumulate in the focal point of the area to kill the team. Briefly, it shows up all trust is lost, yet fortunately a rescue helicopter shows up in the moment of time. Seeing the specters are come by the wind current from the propeller, Mark crushes the iron shavings on the ground. The wind pushes the iron fillings towards the specters, which wards them off. It acquires them sufficient opportunity to get on the helicopter and take off. When securely in the air, they get word from Orlan that the specters have overwhelmed their airbase. Because of this, they are diverted to a regular citizen shelter heavily influenced by the United Moldovan military. Upon their arrival, Sari is gone to by a doctor because of a shoulder injury she sustained during their escape. Some time later, Orland additionally shows up at the shelter with a small team of surviving soldiers and supplies. Major Sessions asks about their next course of activity. However, Orland admits to lacking a clear plan. The soldiers then start to engage in discussion. What's more, debates, while Mark sits alone, endeavoring to sort out the riddle in his mind. Soon after, Mark hinders them, affirming that he understands what the specters are. He guarantees that these specters are man-made entities and are made out of Bose-Einstein condensate, which clarifies their capacity for travel through walls, freeze people to death. What's more, the powerlessness to go through iron shavings and ceramic materials. This is the explanation they couldn't enter the ceramic bath where Comstock stowed away, as indicated by him. The nuclear energy plant is the very place, giving energy to the specters. He too accepts that plasmic release can destroy the condensate. After this, Mark and different soldiers cooperatively start looking for anything they can be utilized to make exceptional weapons. Mark transforms this dugout into a weapons store. Furthermore, constructs 12 plasmic discharge weapons. Among the stuff they brought from the base, there is likewise a robot, which they use to install another searchlight. Strengthened with these new weapons, the soldiers' commitment to explode the power plant and shut down the danger. The exceptionally next morning, they set out for the Masarif power plant in their helicopters. When they arrive at there, the main team of soldiers slides from the helicopter and gets ready for the strike. They initiate the robot with the searchlight and set up their recently made weapon. When stood up to by an oncoming specters, they open fire and effectively bring it down, affirming the adequacy of their weapon. The remaining soldiers additionally drop to plan for the looming fight, while the soldiers mount an attack on the top of the power plant. Mark, Fran. Furthermore, two different soldiers adventure into the building. Inside, they are before long gone after by a specters, which makes them separate. The soldiers select to go up against the specters, while Mark and Fran continue to a lab. A brief time later, the team goes over an iron door and after entering, they get into the main lab. There, they find that the past scientists were scanning people on a subatomic level and utilizing progressed 3D printing to recreate them in condensate form. As they dig further, they find various specters, bound in discrete cells. A part of these cells are harmed, demonstrating that an incident made a lot of specters escape and the scientists couldn't stop them. Soon after, Mark and Fran sort out the crisis closure technique, and begin chipping away at it. Meantime, on the housetop, the soldiers find that a few specters have a capacity to reassemble their bodies. Thus, a few soldiers succumb to these specters. However, the team continues to fight it. Inside, Fran sorts out that they need to pull off every one of the ports, which will eventually cut the energy supply. A savage fight above cautions the locked specters, instigating them to break liberated from their cells, while Mark does the closing down. Methodology: Fran shoots the specters that figure out how to break free. On the rooftop, Major Sessions re-energizes a major plasmic discharge weapon, and whenever it's finished, he pulls the trigger. Its drawback skips the soldiers off and makes a big blast. As a result, all the glass cells in the lab break and the specters advance out. 1 minute before they can assault, Mark takes out every one of the ports, freezing the specters that in the long run disappear. Following this, Mark and Fran hear a sound radiating from a room. After actually taking a look at it, they are stunned to find real human brains and fringe sensory systems which are connected to a focal machine that keeps the specters alive. Accepting that anything level of cognizance remaining is in pain, Mark turns off the human remaining parts from the machine, at long last allowing them to die in peace. Now that the specters are completely gone, the US and their Moldovan partners proceed their endeavors to regain control of the city from the agitators. The Department of Defense extraction team is sent back to the power plant facility close by the Delta Forces operators to destroy the machinery. The film closes as Mark says goodbye to Sari and Fran prior to getting back to his home in Virginia. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.